Warning: sensitive images.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nos programas offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule.
برامجنا متوفرة بالعديد من اللغات. يرجى زيارة suprememastertv.com/schedule.
It's very fearful based on that story that God acts towards us how we act towards all of creation. So if we're supporting and taking part and consuming this cruelty, we're not setting ourselves up for success. But also, there's energy, and Jews should understand that we are what we eat more than anyone else.
Please continue watching to find out more.
Vegan side effect. Take note, you can find vegan owls with eyes closed.
Wonderful viewers, if you visit serene Cocos Islands, you could be welcomed with Salam Sejahtera, that's greetings in Malay, the official language of Cocos Islands. I am Oliana. The joyous people of Cocos Islands are proud of your courage and compassion in adopting the pure, plant-based diet. In God's mercy, may everyone feel similarly inspired. Welcome to Vegan for World Peace. Interview with the Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross, Vegan, Part 1 of 2.
Veganism is something that everyone can rally around and come together. It's such a winning solution to so many of humanity's ills, whether it's climate change, whether it's world peace, when we can rally around a positive thing and come together and put down our differences. Because we share such an important aspect of our belief and living. Veganism, it's such a win. And when we all come to that realization, there's really going to be a world of peace.
These are the earnest words of Rabbi Donn Gross on veganism. Before his unforeseen spiritual awakening, Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross was a vegetarian businessman who had no idea that he would someday become a religious leader. However, a series of unfortunate personal events turned his life toward God. Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross first began by researching food's impact on health, which subsequently transformed him into a vegan. After that, the Reverend started his rabbinic study and later opened Congregation Bet David, the first vegan synagogue or shul, Jewish house of worship in the United States. Although he started with minimal cooking knowledge, heaven marvelously gifted the rabbi with excellent gourmet skills for his Meals to Heal, a community-focused vegan catering service. With all these miracles and more, the Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross now joyfully dedicates his life to God by promoting veganism. Amazing viewers, on today's program, the Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross will explore the relationships between veganism, spiritual teachings, and compassion for animal people. Let us begin our show with documented benefits of the vegan diet.
When you take that large database and then you come up with conclusions and you see time after time, study after study, that people have healed themselves, cancers have gone away, and I'm a voracious reader and consumer of health videos. But even more important than that, I run a plant-based meal service, Meals to Heal catering, and I have seen people's cholesterol levels go down, people who were close to being diabetic, now healthy. I've seen all sorts of medical miracles happening. So from the core scientific, again, the piece of information that was the catapult for my health journey was the fact that garlic juice, I mean, can you get simple, right? You pour that on cancer and it kills the cancer. Now, people ask, well, how do you do that in a body? You consume garlic, or you consume the spice of life. Think of the beauty and the genius of the supreme creator and the poetry that the spices that make our food taste good actually heal our bodies. The poetry and the symmetry is beautiful. But if you just look outside, the direct correlation between the food that we eat and our physical health, you really don't need any greater scientific study.
The Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross will now touch on the spiritual aspect of veganism with a meaningful Jewish story excerpted from one of the most central sources of rabbinic Judaism.
There's a great story in the Talmud, and it's about Rabbi Judah the Prince. He was a very important rabbi. He compiled much of our laws, and he was the leader of the people some 2,000 years ago. And he was walking in the street one day, and somebody was leading a calf to slaughter. And the calf ran up to him, nestled its nose in his coat, and he looked down and said, "Go with them, because for this you were created." Heaven said Rab Judah was not compassionate on God's creations, on an animal. So for 11 years he had bodily aches and pains. What happened was one day his house cleaner was shooing out some weasels, some mice that had taken refuge in his house. And he told the maid, "Let them be, because God is merciful on all of his creatures." At that point, heaven said, now Rab Judah is merciful and we can take away his bodily aches and pains. So he had aches and pains for 11 to 12 years, because when one is merciful on God's creation, heaven is merciful towards that individual. We know today that there's tremendous cruelty, tremendous, unspeakable cruelty. And we're not only talking about the slaughter, we're talking about from the moment animals are born, some of the cruelty starts to be enacted upon them. And so from a spiritual standpoint, you're taking part in this cruelty. It's very fearful, based on that story, that God acts towards us how we act towards all of creation. So if we're supporting and taking part and consuming this cruelty, we're not setting ourselves up for success. But also, there's energy, and Jews should understand that we are what we eat more than anyone else.
Meat is forbidden in all religions, including Judaism. The Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross will demonstrate several examples from his extensive knowledge of Judaic scripture.
This is a fascinating subject. In the Bible, whenever meat eating is mentioned, there's one word that is associated with it, and that word in Hebrew is ta'ava, which is in Jewish philosophy a highly charged word. Possibly there is no other highly charged, and it means craving, a lust. When we go to seminary, we're always told, break your physical lusts because you want to become more spiritual. Well, in the Torah, in the Bible, whenever meat is mentioned, that word of lust is linked to it. So one again has to say, oh my gosh, but these are the beautiful things that people read over these words and they never notice it. But once you stop, oh my goodness, it's incredible. There's a story. It's in Numbers 11:4. We know that Moses, our great teacher, if there was a king who was harassing the people, Moses was there. If there was a body of water that needed to be split, Moses was there. If there was water in a rock that needed to be given to the people, Moses was there. Even if you worshiped a golden idol, Moses is there willing to give up his life for the people. But in Numbers 11:4, the people ask for meat. And Moses says to God, God, why did you do this to me? Did I birth these people? Do I have to carry them in? And I don't have meat to feed them. And if this is what you're going to do, then kill me now. I don't want to be involved. Moses totally folds his hands and said, I am not dealing with this. But when we wanted water from a rock or all these miracles, Moses was there. He was willing to do everything in his power. But you ask for meat? This is beyond the pale. This is not in my job description, and I'm not dealing with it. God, if this is what's going to happen, I resign. And later, all the people who cry for meat and the psychosis that meat brings on, they start thinking of their time in Egypt as a party. We remember all the wonderful things. We remember the squash. We remember the cucumbers, the watermelons. And all of a sudden, because of this craving for meat, this psychosis, they start thinking of their time in slavery as a party. They went to Florida. They went on spring break. That's the craziness for the meat. And ultimately, when they get meat, they die. It's called the burial of those who craved. Whenever meat, or very often when meat is mentioned, it's not in good light in the Bible.
The Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross goes on to highlight the origin and misconception of animal people sacrifices in spiritual doctrines.
So there's three things that people need to know. The first thing is what Maimonides says. The second thing is the way society was 3,000, 4,000 years ago. And the third thing is what Reb Joseph Caro says. Reb Joseph Caro was the one who composed the code of law for the Jews. So the first thing to understand is that sacrifices were brought everywhere in society, in the pagan society. Sacrifices were everywhere by anyone at any time. Maimonides says that the Jews would never have received or accepted a religion that did not include sacrifices because it was so prevalent in society. The Jews were part of society. They would not accept a religion without sacrifices. So God then said to them, okay, if that's the case, instead of anyone, anywhere, at any time, it's going to be one person at a specific time in a specific place. In other words, the water faucet that was running red with animal blood was now going to be brought down to a trickle. So people today think, well, we have all of these sacrifices when Jews believe the Messiah will come. Reb Joseph Caro, who composed the Code of Jewish Law, says that the holidays that we celebrate now will be going away. So that's a lot of sacrifices. Sin will be going away. That's a lot of sacrifices. We'll be left with, at the best, one or two sacrifices. What Nachmanides says is that the incense, there were sacrifices of incense and flour and libations.
We are so grateful for Rabbi Donn Gross sharing with us about how plant-based living conveys the original intent of Judaic tradition. For more information, please visit mealstohealcatering.com. God-seeking viewers, we appreciate your company today on Vegan and Religion. Please join us again tomorrow for part 2 of this program with more spiritual insights from the Reverend Rabbi Donn Gross. Coming up next is the Venerable Bhikshuni Mahaprajapati Gautami, Vegan, the first Buddhist nun, part 2 of 2, right after Noteworthy News. May humanity be guided by the divine to quickly switch to the life-saving, compassionate vegan diet.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/VR.